Yeah, so most of the time it's as simple as like I'll just record my coaching session with whoever, like you, for instance, and then I'll just plonk it on YouTube as a brand new video, just as it is. I don't bother editing it or anything like that because I simply don't have the time.
Yep.
And most people in my position are probably the same, you know. Like we don't
Absolutely.
Unless you're trying to make it a job, which
well, yeah, exactly. That's a whole nother skill set to develop.
Yeah.
Making good content
and
like
simply don't
you're
have
playing
the time.
at this level.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you become a good coach or you become a good content creator, and you can't really do both. And people that pretend that they are aren't really good at one or the other. So they may pretend that they are, but don't let them kid you. Are you in the queue? I sent you a link.
Oh,
queue. The only kind of VOD review software that's out there right now. People used to use like Visor Mayhem, but there's.
I can't believe Visor died on us.
I know. There were a lot of very unhappy people, as I'm sure you can imagine. Let me know when you're in.
It's a shame. I'm in.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Great. I'm actually going to go back. Sorry. I'll go back to when you guys talk and spawn.
Now.
Because you may say something relevant.
I'll keep an eye out.
Oh, I just alt-tabbed.
I think the only bad thing about this is that I think I have Sid's mic muted because we're in the same room.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah. That's nice.
There are going to be
nice
a
of you
few missing
his like has you calling like 16 times because like
no.
echoes like so I know it's really funny.
Yeah, he has noise canceling headphones on, so he can't hear me. Whereas I hear the echo of him, and I want to die.
Yeah.
I'm like way too sound sensitive.
I completely understand. I did feel slightly irked by the fact that I could hear you twice.
Yeah. No doubt.
I don't know. I guess I just kind of switch off to it, get used to it.
She's in the second store on the left room.
Hello? Did it dive? Is there a tank? Attacking Diva? Oh, breaking shield? Monkey's monkey. Diva's in the corner, Tracer's behind. Nice. We're up 2. Focusing Diva.
Widow's top, back right? Okay.
Reloading. There is Zen.
Well, this is a bit of a stomp.
I'm with McCree.
Mercy's over here on the right. Starts pretty strong.
Yeah, I think as with a lot of these things, pirate ship comps are typically really powerful on first point on of Junkertown. It's pretty common that you just see this and then like, oh wait, now we get full hold on second, and there's actually something to talk about.
Exactly.
Because I don't think there's anything to talk about on that first point.
Cool.
I think maybe you.
This is also
the only thing that I would say is initially you saw that monkey like top right. I can go back if you want, but maybe you remember. Like
I know what you're talking about. When I dove in, there was like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
there.
It's a pretty aggressive move when you have kind of no information. Whereas you could have gone for the same, I guess, contest in terms of taking the high ground, but you didn't need to like fly into their face, right? It's very easy for them to punish you very quickly if you go very close to them. Whereas if you fly up to the high ground kind of further away from them, closer to your bastion and your restaurant, whatever, then you're much more likely to get any sort of support.
Right.
Whereas flying that aggressively into them, there's a much.
I could have been McCree.
Yeah. You just don't know, right? You just don't know. If the whole team stood there, you're like, oh shit, I need to DMX, and then it's like, oh well, great, I've done nothing. They just fed. You just fed, and you didn't even have any idea you were going to feed.
Right.
I was looking to get like I heard like footsteps.
Also, given the composition you're playing, you don't really need to aggressively contest anything. Diva in this comp isn't so much to play aggressively as more to peel and play defensively. Because there is no one that can follow up, right? If you take high ground on your own, there simply will not be any follow up, and you're just going to be going 1v however many people are up there.
Did you know the flag?
He's going around right.
Monkey behind us. Tanks are behind us.
Diva.
Genji behind us.
Baby.
Zen way up top on bridge.
Mercy behind.
Dan's on.
But let's go back and watch that again because that was really chaotic. and I honestly don't think anyone had any idea what they were doing.
He's going around right.
Monkey behind us.
Okay. The first things first, you don't have to get really, really close into your team here, right? You'll have a much better time if you play further away. On top of that, the one person that really needs to survive can't escape into a team that's all stood next to each other, right? So the further you play, the easier it is for your Mercy to survive. And Defense Matrix has a fair amount of range too. But I think the biggest thing for me here is that your Mercy should have just like got clapped. That there was no reason why your Mercy shouldn't have died here. They fucked up pretty bad, essentially. They just didn't execute at all. And the Bastion lives for way too long, which is a big mistake on the enemy's part, mainly because their tanks drop and then their DPS come like 30 years later. But you could have played further from your team here, right? And your DM should just be to keep this person and this person alive. So I'm not sure what your DM's used for before this.
Did you know the flag?
He's going around right.
Yeah, so like what? Who is this helping right now?
Nobody.
Yeah, right. And it has a 2-second cooldown now. This could be a really, really big deal. What if this Tracer just? I mean, you know that they don't have anything, but imagine she had Pulse Bomb. You're like, oh shit!
Right.
I just killed my whole team. Especially in a composition like this, she could just blink. She could just triple blink down, recall out, and just like she just pulse bomb your whole team here. This doesn't help anyone. You have to be very deliberate with your cooldown usage on D.Va.
Right.
Monkey behind us. Tanks are behind us.
So right here, this should have been. You're playing further away, right back where you were, and then you can shift through your Bastion and boop them off of your Bastion to keep him alive. Right, they're tanks. And
so you would have put me where the Tracer was?
More that kind of direction, yeah, because that way you can boot them away. It's just the way that you rotate yourself here doesn't put you in an advantageous position, right? You don't.
Right.
Like probably, I'd just stand on cart, right? You've got the shield to protect yourself. You can DM your whole team from there. The first thing I'd want to do is get my Mercy away, though, right? So I think this would be, they drop down. I'd be shifting this way, and then I'd shift back to boop them off the Bastion. That way your Mercy has an escape, and you can have them off your Bastion. Whereas you move in here like you're a DPS, You're not playing, like, in a defensive, tanky way, This isn't like, oh, look, I'll stand in front of my Bastion to tank for him. This is, oh, I'm going to try and shotgun this D.Va to death. But you're not DPS, You're a tank.
D.Va.
Genji behind us.
Baby.
Zen way up top on bridge.
Mercy behind.
And that should have, like, here. I'll go back. Like, nothing's cooled here. But the second your Mercy goes for this res, that should be, like, you just hard hold DM on top of her, right? Like, this you should use the whole of this to make sure your Mercy gets this res off and doesn't die. Like, imagine a world where they aren't distracted by your McCree that hasn't communicated his ult. This would be, different, right? This Mercy, your Mercy's just dead.
Yep.
Mercy behind.
It really doesn't help that your Mercy doesn't communicate they're going for the res. But if you have a Mercy going for res, essentially you're just going to have you use like all your DM on them to make sure they get the res off.
Absolutely. Yeah, getting the Bastion back is the most important thing.
He was up there.
This is nice though, right? Pre-fight positioning is super important as D.Va. As you've already said, you don't want to have to use your cooldowns to go down. To go up, sorry. You want to start up already.
Yep, D.Va and Tracer up here with me. I'm gonna bomb when they come to point. Oh, nope.
Nice. Good stagger. D.Va's close. I have Valk.
Yep, D.Va and Tracer up here with me.
You should be dropping already, right? You're too low here. You wait. Also, why don't you break this as you're walking past it? It's such a small thing, and it's the kind of thing like I would do intuitively, and I honestly don't know how I would coach that to someone, because it's so like, it's like, oh, I might need to drop, so I'll just that just means you can just walk back down and you just drop. It's just...
No, I've literally never thought about breaking rails except for when I'm setting up. Like, it's When you're set it up, that's when you break all the rails. Yeah, you're totally
But you are
right.
setting up still, right? You are in
I
a posturing
am,
phase.
but I don't think of it that way.
And I'd just be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I may need to drop here, so I'll just... The reason I
great.
say it is I have no idea how I would, like, make a point of saying that, but I don't know. have
that's
a
great.
massive brain, I guess, right? Just, like, have 12 million
Right.
IQ, and then you'll be fine.
Just more 500 hours. You'll get it. You'll start breaking
But
rails.
I think
on this
if you
mission.
broke this rail, like, that would have made your back out here a lot easier, right? Because
Yeah.
that may have been part of the reason that you just... Because I don't know if you're trying to walk off or
Yep.
trying to jump off here.
I'm gonna.
But yeah, right. You're just trapped on all this shitty geometry, and you're gonna get demaxed. I actually think at this point though, I would have just shifted my ult into them,
Right.
or let's go back.
He's right here. Nice. Good stagger.
I also don't really like this positioning, right? I think you actually want to be up over here, mainly because they come out here or here. Well, here not so much, but if they come out underneath here,
Yeah, that's
you're
pretty rare.
behind them, right?
Right.
It's rare for any attackers to have positioning up in this spot, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is the best spot to go to here, and it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think I try
It's hard to say objectively.
sometimes to do too much. Yeah. There was a Zen on the stairs, and the DPS completely cleaned him up before I got to him.
Exactly.
And I just needed to trust them and position myself better and use that time because they don't need me.
And
for
I think
a
the
Zen.
biggest thing is if you're up here, your sight lines are this, which basically covers all of the entrances, right? Whereas if you position on this part of the map, you don't actually have easy access to where the fight's probably going to be taking place, right?
Right. And people can come up behind me.
And on top of that, you're playing D.Va, you want to be close. And this high ground is very, very close to this, right? Whereas you can't get any meaningful damage in from back where you are now. You're going to have to use a cooldown to get into this fight no matter what. Irrespective of the fact that like they're coming from here, right? Like pretend we didn't know that and we were just setting up for the fight. Objectively, this spot is better. Just because of the
Absolutely.
distance to where the fight's going to be and the sight lines that it gives you.
D.Va's close. I have Valve.
Yep, D.Va and Tracer up here with me. I'm gonna bomb when they come to point. Oh,
Why did you not use all of your DM?
I have Valve.
yep, D.Va and Tracer up here with me.
Because there's two things you did wrong here, right? Firstly, you wanted to use all of your DM, and then secondly, you want to shift the fuck out of it, right? Your crit box is like literally the whole of... I'm drawing it on the other D.Va, right? It's literally the whole of this. So essentially that means that this Tracer is headshotting you on like 50% of your body, right? And you're facing into them. So you're going to get demected instantaneously unless you turn around. So not only do you not use all of your really, really powerful OP defensive ability, but you also just let them see your crit box and they can just destroy you instantaneously.
I'm gonna bomb when they come to point.
I think maybe you didn't respect the Tracer hard enough there.
Tracer, no recall.
Yeah.
Nice.
Tracer's on the right.
Somebody's up here with me.
It's D.Va.
Oh, and Tracer.
And Mercy.
They're right. They're trying to do some flanky behind. Nice try.
Nice.
Well, this is awkward. Oh, there was a...
Falcon.
They're resin?
Mercy, mercy, mercy. D.Va, Zen.
They are literally using every single ult in the game for a fight that they've won.
Dying fast. On point.
I'm not sure there was much. Sorry, I know I didn't. There really isn't a huge amount you could have done different here.
Oh, there was a...
Falcon.
They're resin?
Mercy, mercy, mercy. D.Va,
Because I have no clue what the hell your Bastion's doing. It's kind of the big issue here is your Bastion's in a
Well, this is awkward. Oh, there was a...
questionable position.
resin?
mercy, mercy, mercy.
I guess you could have used the rest of your DM on the Bastion, but I'm not sure it would have made any difference.
Hold on.
Yeah, just die then.
Yep, dying fast. On point.
Transvalk Blade. So they used all their important ults.
Yeah.
Alright, I've got my ult. How do I want to use that?
Really with me.
Just on the cart? When we get on the cart? Okay.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like, up here, where the Diva and Genji are?
No.
Okay, I got you.
I'm here.
So you've now entered this fight with no ODM, right? You've used all of your defensive abilities just to walk to the point here. You shouldn't have to do this. It's hard to say that this is specifically your fault, but
Oh, that's a great idea.
Like, up here?
you know, it's simply only a Genji, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't,
We should have just walked into him.
well, you can't use all of this, right? Because you're gonna need it when you drop down. So either you wait for that to come back up, or you say to your team, I have no DM. Or you wait.
Okay,
That one was probably the really questionable bit, because no one should have been shooting him, right? He's reflecting, he can't do any damage to you. And at this point we've used all of our defensive resources. And so you can't pocket this Bastion, who somehow shreds everything because they can't shoot an immortality field.
I'm on you. Can't get away up.
Why was that bomb not good?
I mean, it wasn't even directed at anybody, and it didn't save the people on my point.
Yeah.
It didn't create any space.
It did not create any space, right? I think the key thing is you have to think about bombs as zoning ultimate, right? And if your bomb's gonna land, sorry, I'll go a little bit further in the space that it is now. Where does it force the enemies to go?
Right back into where they wanted to be, in the middle of us.
Literally in the middle of your team, exactly. Just, I guess, you know, you got to think about your bomb placement like that. You know, it's wherever you're placing it, that's where the enemies don't want to be. Arguably, the best thing you could have done would be to sit it on payload, like throw it up and sit it on payload, and that way it's going to see everything around here and they're zoned off of the point and zoned away from your team, more specifically.
Can't get away up.
Why did you go down? These guys are 100% dead. Your only chance is to fly up and go. Instead, you feed them 800 HP because you get the pack as well.
Sure.
Might not be bad.
How many people need to be dead on your team for the fight to be lost?
Gosh. Usually 2. I mean,
I would say 2.
Yeah.
2 probably. 2 it's like 1 it's probably lost. 2 it's like 99% lost, and 3 it's guaranteed lost. How many people were dead at this point?
Everybody but me.
Literally all 5 people. And I think like even at this point where you remech.
Can't get away up.
So I think the first mistake is remeching, right? You should have just let them kill you as baby.
Really? Okay. Yeah, you're right.
The issue with this is just like you didn't have awareness that they'd killed 3 people on your team, you know? It's so important that you're aware of how many people on your team are alive. Especially on Diva, because it's really easy for you to feed a shitload of ult charge. And also to not feed a load of ult charge, right? You could just decide not to remech. I don't know, maybe remeching isn't the most terrible idea because you can actually fly out up top. But you have to be conscious, right, of the fact that you're not going to get anything done here. So you need to leave or you need to die as baby Diva. Feeding them 800 H. I mean, I think the issue is you do kind of everything wrong here. You don't. Firstly you remech, and then you fly onto the pack, and now you're getting staggered.
Sorry. Yep.
Cara?
I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
Kind of not much you could do about that, but
Sounds good.
What kind Alright,
Yep.
guys. We're gonna go auto.
No, you're totally right. Staying demeched after the bomb got 2 people. Like, I saw that 2 people died on the bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you were calling that fight was lost already, right? And everyone was backing out. Like, it's maybe that you need to like automatically have the thought process behind. It's like, oh shit, well, okay, now I've got to make sure I don't feed, because you want to make sure they don't recharge any ults or whatever that they've just used in that fight.
Inside of his back.
This was today.
And
This was today, right?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday. Okay, no. So this was after I'd had.
Oh well, yesterday for me.
After I'd had my talk with
Yes,
Sid.
Sid.
Oh, okay, nice. Because I was just thinking that this was fucking nice, because I know Sid wasn't doing this before.
Inside of his back.
So first thing, what could you have done here? Positioning wise. And you kind of
Can I see it
kind
again?
of already highlighted this yourself. Where do you always want to position pre-fight?
The higher ground.
The high ground, right? You at the beginning of this fight, you were already on the high ground. You know, you could have simply stayed in the window and been able to defense matrix over your whole team.
Yeah.
Alright.
Definitely been the big brain play. Is this a scrim or a tournament?
This is the tournament.
Okay.
Genji got rezzed. We're about to lose it.
Yeah.
Gotta build up our ults. We'll be alright.
Yep, that's it.
That was Trance, Blade.
That was good.
They use Pulse.
Yeah.
So they'll have Bomb, Primal, and
Alright.
Nice. 5. But that's not intentional. Like, I wasn't thinking coverage when I did that.
Yeah, be down to lose.
Sorry?
Like, when I positioned for high ground right there, it's not because I thought I was providing cover and DM for my team.
Because
I'm not being that intentional.
This is good, right? This is like it's like you thought about the positioning.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of like, I know I should be on high ground, but I wasn't thinking I'm on high ground so that I can protect my team as much as I'm on high ground because that's where Diva goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm not being like, I definitely wasn't thinking save DM for when team gets on the point. But I need to be.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's part of the reason that Diva's so strong on high ground, right? Is you can stand here and you can like basically provide a barrier across your whole team here.
Right. No, I'm thinking in this moment to be a bully. I want to make space. It's not that I want to protect them. It's that I'm just not thinking of it that way, if that makes any sense.
I also dislike that you guys decided to path onto the point this way, but I don't know how much you...
We should have jumped down.
I don't know how much do you want to talk about what your team did rather than what you did, because we can not talk about it if you want and just talk about your own play.
No, I'd love to.
So
I'm the captain of this team.
My play would have been to go around the other way and come up here and go take high ground.
Okay.
Because not only is high ground essential, but it also means that they have to give up all of this part of the map, right?
Yeah.
And how many fights did they get? None, right? By the time you've got up here, they've already had to give up all of this part of the map to you. And all you've done is simply walk to another position, right? You haven't had to fight anyone. And they're going to have to concede all of that space. And there's also a good chance you get the Zen for free because he's an idiot. So for me, that would have been the better play. That forces them out for this position. And it's really, really common for people to get stuck here. Not against the composition that they're playing, because your comp literally hard counters them. But in like playing against a goat's composition, you know, if you go all the way around, come out here and go up here, that forces them, you know, to concede all of this space. In fact, it often forces them all the way to give you all of the way around to, you know, basically they can only contest the card at the last point because you have control of the fidget spinner, as everyone seems to call.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth a bit like thinking about your as a team, thinking about your pre-fight positioning. You know, because what does the positioning that you guys have taken here give you? Like, what advantage does it give you?
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure that we thought the closer to the payload, the better. But instead, it would be better to win the fight and then go back for the payload.
Well, the thing is, you can take this position, right? And then if they don't fight you, then you go the payload and push it a bit. Like, it doesn't matter that you've wasted 20 seconds to go here, because you're gonna waste. You know, you've wasted 2.5 minutes trying to force your way out of this choke. Also, the fact that people are getting picked off here is kind of big yikes.
Nano, I'm reloading.
Tracer's above you. Yeah,
I'm with Cara.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, coming.
Where are we going?
Yeah.
And part of the issue is that you're playing an Ana,
Let's go back. It's fine.
so you just kind of lose this, unfortunately, because you have no defensive ult and you also have no damage.
Alright. I'll throw a grenade. I know you.
Sorry, I'm gonna go back, listen to this, and tell me what target you guys are focusing.
Alright, we're all here. Alright.
I'll throw a grenade. I know you.
No target at all.
It's absolutely essential, especially as goats. Like your target focus needs to be hot and it needs to be fast. Like this diva needs to just get clapped instantaneously. There still hasn't been a target call.
Mercy's dead. Tracer's on the stairs.
In fact, targets only get called after the fight's already won.
Alright.
Yep.
Which is definitely an issue.
He's out. Tracer on point.
Riley, next.
Okay, so this fight's done. Your whole team needs to be going high ground, including you. Only person that stays on cart. Well, actually, no. You can play cart because you can get to high ground.
Or whatever.
Lucio can also play cart because he can get to high ground. Everyone else needs to go high ground.
I don't have a chance. He might. He used it in that first fight, but he could have gotten back. Did he die early?
So all of this usage of DM, what's been the point?
Nothing. It's not intentional
like you're
at
actually
all.
just using it on cooldown, right? And there's no intentional about it at all, like you say. Like it has to be to prevent. Like I can understand maybe you're like trying to prevent some spam, but that should just be your Reinhardt stood in front. In fact, it's probably better off that you take the damage and charge your support ults than it is that you eat this. You know?
Yeah.
I have no idea what Sid's doing this whole time, I'll be honest.
Tracer behind.
Diva.
Okay, the second you hear that, you need to be booping the shit out of this guy once he uses his dash.
Bombing right on point. Get on the bomb. Get on the bomb. Get on the bomb.
That is not the play, right? The play needs to be after he dashes, you boop him away.
Okay.
This ability is super powerful. And using it to boop people is very, very common in high level play. Like you'll see in Goats v Goats, like for instance a diva up here and a Rhine battle going on here, and this diva just go whoosh and just boop that right into their team, right? It happens a lot.
Done.
We're doing good. Save ult stuff. Monkey.
Yes, one advantage.
Yep. I'm switching to Brig.
Alright, they use Pulse and Blade. How do you use that?
Okay, which means we need to be ready for the bomb.
Okay.
That'd be the big devastating thing.
Careful for primal pushing.
So the one issue I have with this is that your squishies are dying anyway. 1 second. Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. This is probably a lot better actually for you.
Yeah, it's not that different. It's
yeah,
good.
no, I just changed it to a US server. So
Oh.
going Kree here. The issue is you guys don't know how to play defensively anyway.
Right.
So although he has the flashbang, chances are he's just going to get killed by these guys that have much more mobility than him, right? Although in theory this composition's better, Goats is still better because it has much more defensive abilities.
Okay. Speed? Where's speed?
Sid said to go under. I remember that call.
I need help in the back. Genji's on me. Oh, Zen's
What's he? Why is he there?
I need help in the back. Genji's on me. Oh, Zen's up top.
What?
I need help in the back. Genji's on me. Oh,
who should you be helping right now?
I mean, normally I'd say as Brig, I should be right next to Ryan, but everybody's so spread out, I don't even know what to do.
You're playing against dive comp, right?
Yeah.
Your Rhine is invincible against dive comp. Like, they simply do not have enough damage to ever kill him, right? The only peaceful, as Brig, as Diva, no matter what you're playing, if you're playing against dive comp, all of your defensive abilities have to go into squishy characters, such as McCree. Or Zen. Or Zen? Lucio, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your McCree is literally hard-inting here. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, he has no idea what your team's doing. But you should still be giving him the armor pack.
Gotcha.
You lose your McCree, you've lost this fight.
Diva's out of
Somehow your McCree goes ham and kills both their DPS. But then gets solo ulted by the monkey. Then you get nanoed. Who should you be focusing?
the Mercy.
The Zen. The guy that's completely immobile.
Yeah.
And even though he's like clicking your head, you don't seem to even realize that he's there.
Nope, I don't turn.
And Sid's on him, but no one's calling.
Sleeping monkey?
And again, this is like, you know, no one's calling a target, so no one's focusing. If someone goes Zen, 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 right side, Zen, 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 then this Zen is just dead instantaneously, right?
Sleeping monkey?
Yep. And there's the first call for Zen.
It's way too late, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big issue is that you guys didn't stay grouped to 6 people, right? Is that people got your backline got picked off, which just simply can't happen in goats. It shouldn't be possible,
So in the future,
realistically.
we should be running Moira goats as our base goats. And I was being staggered when that call was made, but somebody needs to make that call instead of me if I'm the one.
Why would you go?
That's not important. That's our comp being
Okay, Moira Goats is not the call either, right? They're not playing poke.
No, it's that we have
You've got Clive. Clive wants to play Zen. And for some reason no one lets him play Zen. And now he's got to a point where he's been forced so much onto a hero that's not Zen that he simply can't play Zen because he's never been given an opportunity to. He needs to only play Zen. Nothing else. At this point. If you guys want to do well, that is.
Yeah, I guess we've been. It's totally my call. I've made that call because I'm afraid that positioning hasn't been his strong suit on Anna, and that it will be even more challenging on Zen. So I feel like he's been growing in Anna, so I've made him stay there.
But the harder he's punished, the harder it sticks in his head. If he spends every single fight dead because of his positioning, don't you think that he's forced to learn to position better?
I hope
Like,
so.
every time you die, do you not think, what could I have done differently? Because that should be basically like every time you lose a fight, every time you die, every time someone else dies on your team, you're thinking, what could I have done better in that fight? No matter what character you're playing, no matter anything, right? Every game, even if you win, it should be, what could we have done differently? What could we have done better that would have made that easier? Especially if you're dying a lot, you know. And you're right,
Okay.
you know. Clive and I have talked about his positioning, and it will definitely improve.
Wait,
Great.
you're saying we should have never
No, I mean I'm totally down for that. I
But
think
he physically
so. In
can't
this
improve
group,
if he's not allowed to try it, you know.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
and we adjust as we need.
Alright.
So Mercy.
You carry on with what you were gonna say.
Moira.
We ran this with Moira. Well, we didn't have.
Pardon?
You carry on with what you were gonna say because I cut you up.
Yeah,
So,
I
who else is there?
yeah, I just I think the way that I've been playing it with I'm sure you've heard from them that we have this massive roster
If
that's
we-
kind
if
of
we
been
switch
the best
to-
part and the
we
worst
did a
part of our
Moira-based
team.
comp the other day, and I
And
enjoyed playing against Genji's.
Making people kind of specialize has been what I've been trying to do. So I wanted him to put all of his resources into Anna and Lucio, and I've been waiting for the growth in those two. And when that happens, I definitely want to expand, but I don't know. Maybe I should give him more chances to try it,
Ash.
What's our swap? Especially in practices.
Yeah, I mean that's just it, right? I mean, you guys practice what 2 times a week, 3 times a week?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got plenty of opportunity for him to do so. And at the end of the day, aren't you guys just here to learn and have fun?
I mean, I guess I think that he has a really rough position because he's such a lower SR than everybody else that I think it'll be really hard for him to take that feedback on Zen. But maybe I'm wrong. I could give it a
I
shot.
know he was like super receptive to me, but it's probably
Oh, he wants to play Zen. He wanted to play Zen before he talked to you, and I talked to him because
no. I mean,
I
in
thought
terms of
that,
Anna
like-
theme, you know, all the feedback I gave him was about Anna, but most of it was pretty general because they're essentially the same character. Just one's bad. Well, one's not okay. And Anna's just generally poor, unless you're really, really, really good. She has this weird thing where she's good at lower SRs, and then she's really bad as people get better, and then you get to this point where if your Anna's like, you know, 4.7, 4.8 KSR, then you can just outskill people. You know, like
Right.
Overwatch League, for instance. Like once you get to that level, then Anna becomes viable again. But yeah, I don't know.
But you would say for our range, Zen would be the better
I
pick.
don't think you're low enough where Anna's like super valuable. You know, it's not where because they've got to be like so bad that they just let nades through. You know, right down here, or your Anna has to be so good that they hit every nade. But whereas here, somewhere in the
Right.
middle, is the Diva is much easier than Anna is. So it's very easy
Right.
for the Diva to eat nades, whereas the Anna has to be tracking all of the other cooldowns to be able to get her nades in.
Right.
Go
Double
Ash,
sniper.
Cara goes Hanzo. Sure.
Huh.
We'll do double sniper and Anna, Lucio.
Quick shield.
I think it just feels as a player in this range like the Anna nades are so effective because we do get hit by them, you know. But that's on our divas.
Yeah.
Going for break.
Nice heal.
Breaks the half on part. They're pushing point.
I'm with you. Let's go get her.
Zen's attacking me. Boosting alley. I got you.
Ryan's with Zen.
Got you.
I kind of don't know where I should be right now.
Back with your team where you were. Realistically, probably a bit further left than this. You know, playing on the other piece of cover. Because
So that if they get dove, I can DM them.
you can DM them and you can shift and push someone back behind them,
Right.
so they're dead. Like there's no way they escape, right? You definitely don't want to be on cart though.
I switched to Pharah. I tapped out. Coming from here.
They still
So this Pharah's going to be your job basically.
Far's pretty low.
I tapped out. Coming from here.
Fara's pretty low.
That is really good DM. Like this is precisely how you should use it, right? Your shield is not up. You have to be DMing. The big issue is that you do this completely intuitively and it is not communicated to you at all, which is really, really terrible from your main tank player.
I'll keep you alive, Ellie.
No, I don't talk about my DM usage.
Genji, Genji, Genji.
And it's important that and it is also important that you say I don't have DM, I have DM,
We're gonna be a little vulnerable
Right.
right now.
because it's such an important
Which
resource.
is funny.
Yes, I wrote down.
Because it allows people to
Yeah,
play
when it comes to
passively.
like Zarya bubbles, I talk about them all the time, but I don't think a DM that way.
I mean, it's probably even more important with DM.
Right.
Alright, Allie, ready for my ult?
Get Mercy as soon as you can.
Yeah, right. Like here. I mean, this is just you not being aware of your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you're doing.
Alright, Allie, ready for my ult?
I mean, like, how much damage are you doing here?
Nothing.
Maybe like 0.02 or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
Whereas
right.
you could just be watching your team and ready with DM.
Mm.
Get Mercy as soon as you can.
Because primarily you're a defensive tank, you know. D.Va is all about defense and punishing people's poor positioning with the shift, right? Like you're there to defend your team, and the second someone's like, "Oh, I'm there," then you're like, "Oh, I can shift and use my E," and you just kill them instantaneously, and they're like, "What the fuck just happened?" You know?
Yep.
Bro,
Resing.
bro.
Resing.
Res, get it. Monkey, monkey, monkey.
Knocking.
So that there would have been a good time to, like, you know, remove the monkey
Run
from
through
the
them.
middle of your team.
Resing.
Res, get it.
Like this should have been a boop monkey off, fly back up, right? That kind of move. Because you don't want him here zapping the whole of your team.
Right.
Monkey, monkey, monkey.
Knocking.
Yep. Playing like a DPS, not a defensive tank.
Resing.
Res, get it. Monkey, monkey, monkey.
Knocking.
Okay, so this is... Yeah, you should have booped him, right? But other than that, you do actually... So here, this should have been down and up. And then bomb.
Mm.
You want your bomb to be nice up higher in the sky when you bomb. If you're planning to bomb, you absolutely don't want to be shifting into the cart. But realistically, I mean, what... Sorry, I'll go back a little bit. I'll pause it at the right time.
Monkey, monkey, monkey.
Knocking.
How many people are you down right now? Well, so down 2.
Oh, it's already over.
You're down 2, right? But
Yep.
your off healer and your main tank are dead. The big one is that your main tank is dead. This is not winnable.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no point using bomb. You should be thinking,
Yep.
oh, I can retake with bomb, right? And they start investing ults. You can be like, oh, look, they just wasted trans. That's great. We've now got an advantage coming to this with our ult economy. If this kills anyone, they're just, okay, phew. They don't have anyone that's like got their monitor turned off.
Yeah, I clearly don't know the fight's over.
Why don't you E, though? Right? If you're going to contest this Farah, fucking fire 10 billion rockets into her face and kill her. Because if you'd E'd there, you might have actually killed her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess the one thing is you allow your team to recontest by going there.
Able to recontest easily.
Yeah.
Make sure you die on the point on this one. We don't want the payload to move any further.
Alright, ready?
So the key here is definitely going to be playing defensively.
I'm gonna go down here.
And what key character on their team do you need to be looking to kill?
Farah.
100% right. I mean, you have a Kree now, I think, right? Did someone swap to Kree? Okay, so
Yeah.
you have a McCree now. So you aren't the only one dealing with the Farah, but you really, really need this guy to be telling you if he's hit some shots on the Farah, right? And you should say that pre-fight. You should say, if you hit this Farah, I'm gonna like kill her instantaneously, right? And you guys need to be playing off each other like that. I guess the same with the Bastion, right? If someone gets a lot of damage into the Farah, you need to be able to follow up and kill them as quickly as possible.
Okay. You want me to go?
You do actually have a lot of people that are capable of dealing with the Farah. I mean, you have a Bastion, McCree, and Baptiste.
Just sounding quiet.
This
It's a trap.
Seems like a trap.
was
Yeah.
questionable.
It was 100% a trap.
I mean, I don't know about a trap. Like, do you really think that their brains are large enough to have thought about this?
I mean, I don't think it was a trap so much as a let's have Zen move cart while we set up.
Like, I don't think they thought, oh, this Zen's going to bait the D.Va to go cart.
No.
That would have been really intelligent of them. But, I mean, realistically, you've got a McCree, right? He should just be dead, like, straight away. Your McCree just stands here, like, bing, bing, dead Zen. He doesn't have any cover. He's clapped instantaneously. And I think part of the problem a lot of the time is you're stood in front of your team and not behind them. You know, DM doesn't work behind you. So actually, most of the time, you need to be stood behind your team. You know, and Blizzard do design these things in quite an intelligent way, is that all of your kit wants you to be behind your team, right? Your DM wants you to stand behind your team, and these two abilities are so you can kill someone really quickly who's on your team. You can only do that if you're stood behind them, right? And boop them away and kill them.
Yeah. I think I've been doing a very aggressive playstyle for so long now because it's so well rewarded in solo queue.
Oh, yeah, 100%, right?
So now, like, playing the team way where I'm protecting them, like, I've been making space, and
Are we sticking with this for longer?
I don't think that clearly I need to be.
I mean, who makes space? Who should be
more.
making space on your team? What Cara? What?
I guess it's the main tank.
Yeah, the main tank, right? The main tank should be making space, not the off tank. I mean, no, okay, that's kind of not entirely true.
Yeah, Cara 2 got that
Your
spawn.
main tank controls space. You can make space, but you know, you can't make space where you're just gonna like feed into the team. You know, you need to spot opportunities, right? This is a nice contest, but you're not getting any value out of your kit being down here, right?
No.
Like, how do your abilities, you know, give you strength to do what you just did, right? They just simply don't. You're there to there to defend your team, like specifically with DM, right? You have to be playing with your team. You're not there to go and like solo kill people.
Thank you.
If that kills someone, that is very questionable.
Did you know the flex?
Monkey in the back line.
Going to prepare.
Monkey's on us.
The second you hear monkey in the back line, you should be peeling, right?
I don't know why I didn't go.
Well, I mean, your job is to peel on D.Va, right? The second anyone
Yeah.
says anything's behind or anything's in us, you're like, whoa, swoop in. Because as you've already recognized, you know, you do a fucking shitload of damage.
No, they bumped me.
I'm with you, I'm blocking. I'm on
Okay,
Zen.
this was one of those times where you should have gone aggressive, right? Well, you need to make the decision, right? You're either standing and fighting, in which case you need to use both of these to go into him, or you're using a shift to get out. Now, both of those I can kind of get behind. Like, both of those are probably fine. The better play is definitely to get out, because if you're alive, you know, you can still have some impact. If you're dead, then you're out of the fight. So realistically, you should have just used your shift to escape here.
I'm with you, I'm blocking. I'm on Zen.
But you're like tunnel visioning pretty hard there.
Now I'm on Farah.
Yeah.
When
Now
you
I'm on
know
Zen again.
you've got
Yeah, but I have no idea what's going on
well,
behind me.
you have an Orisa shield to stand behind, right? You could just be stood behind that Orisa shield and be absolutely fine.
Get away. I need help.
Yep, and I'm now going to be out of mech for a year.
I
Yeah,
have Elk.
that's unfortunate.
Can I get that boost love?
Where you at?
Where do you think they're gonna come
Hey, Bash or Baptiste, let's talk. Can we talk about that?
Zen's going lower. He might be coming up behind.
How do you want to use my ult?
When they hard commit.
Okay.
Monkey's on the right.
When they hard commit? That's a big question mark. Don't you want to do it before? Because Baptiste will be like this. The second they hard commit, they're in this space.
Yeah.
You can't really shoot through the Baptiste ult if their team's in front of it. Right, you have to kill them before they get to you with Baptiste ult.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna have bomb.
Oh, you can leave me now.
They're on me?
Five.
Oh.
I didn't.
I didn't.
No, we're back.
That's good. Thank you.
This was nice. I'll be honest, like from other stuff I've seen of you, you do seem to generally be quite reactive and quite good with the DM stuff. But
That's lost.
Okay.
You want to switch? Double sniper?
but I think maybe you're not proactive in terms of like positioned, ready to do a lot of this stuff
Right.
already.
Fine on
Okay.
What are we doing?
Okay.
What?
I think that's
What?
good too. That gives us a lot more point presence. I feel very split.
This is probably not the comp, but
I'll have bomb again in a
don't really
moment.
want to talk about that too much because this comp is like a massive. I have no. Honestly, your comp for me is just like I have no idea.
Yeah, I think one of the things here is that I'm super, because I was out in front, I can't see what the problem is and what people are reacting to. So people just swap to double sniper, I'm guessing, because that Pharah ult got them before I got there. So now they're done with Pharah. That's all I can do. I'm just guessing at that.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll have bomb for point. Oh, if I get heals. Oh, fuck.
I'm here.
Somebody able to recontest? Okay, great. I'll bomb.
Low behind you.
Got you, Ellen.
This is one thing you've done a couple of times now.
I'll bomb.
Is rather than throwing your bomb up like this, you just kind of slide it along the floor. It's much better if your bomb has some height.
Yeah.
Because that way it'll explode and it'll see everyone, whereas yours just kind of plumps into the cart and they have all the cover in the world to sit behind.
Low behind you.
Got you, Ellen.
If someone oh my god, this Farah. Oh, okay, your whole team dies to the blade anyway. It's hard, honestly, it's hard to say how much of that is your own fault, because I honestly don't think it is. You know, you are the comp. You guys were playing a bunker comp, right? A poke comp, and they were playing dive. And I've gone into this with literally everyone, and I go into it all the time. But compositions are so important in Overwatch, right? So there are three kind of types of composition. I think we're pretty much at the end of the lesson, right? So I can go off a bit on one now. That's a bit less relevant, maybe specifically to you. So there are kind of three types of composition in Overwatch, right? Death ball. So that includes goats, right?
Yep.
Dive, which you well know. Right? Poke. They work in this order, right? Sorry, that's probably I don't know if I have a better screen, right? But
You're great.
So
It's
death
fine.
ball beats dive, dive beats poke, and poke beats death ball, in theory. This kind of goes back the other way, and that's why this is meta. Because death ball beats poke, like, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were playing a poke comp, right? A bunker as a poke comp.
Yep.
It's there about doing as much sustained damage into the enemy team as possible. And they were playing dive. And instead of just thinking, oh, we need to go to a death ball comp, you stay on Orisa like the whole game.
Yep.
So there's kind of not a huge amount to talk about, because if you play a suboptimal comp, like you can't do your job, right? You can't do the job you're supposed to do in that composition because your job is hard countered by what the enemies do.
Right. No, we should have called for the swap to goats once dive started besting us.
100%, right? Like it should have the second it went to second point, you can be like, well, just go goats, and then you go hold them at that first, like the first stage of like the second part, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's definitely one of the drawbacks of our group, is that we never know when to call it. I think people have, like, in the moment on Diva, I feel like I'm doing really well as Diva. So I don't know that I need to make the call because the team as a whole isn't doing well with Poke. And it always feels like we're one, good ult combo away from taking it all back. especially, but now we're at the point too where we spent the most of the season not even playing goats. We thought it was really fun to just break goats in different ways and avoid it, and now we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have kind of gone down that route of, oh yeah, let's not play goats. And now they're at the point where they're like, oh shit, we just get beat.
Yeah, it's not going away.
We just get beaten by everything. Oh shit. That's unfortunate. I mean, like, you know, the DPS comps are strong right now, but they probably aren't that strong in your bracket because people aren't as competent at DPS, you know? Like, mechanics are such a big part of those kind of comps, and, you know, if you're plat, your mechanics aren't that good.
Right.
It's kind of
and we definitely have spent our SR for our team on our DPS. The highest people on our team are DPS players. So we have our supports and our tanks kind of catching up to those roles.
Yeah.
And then our DPS players learning to play those roles so that we can do goats when we need to, so that we can really complete the rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you've gone about it that way. I'm going to stop recording there, by the way.